everyone, welcome back to the Music Chat. Today we'll be talking about the song You'll Never Walk Alone. Beautiful song that came from a musical that Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote back in the 40s. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that show that it came from, and a little bit about what's happened to the song along the years that's made it so beloved. And so, Barbara, tell us if you want to start us off and tell us a little bit about its beginnings.
Absolutely. Well, I'm actually going to start with talking about Rodgers and Hammerstein. And I will also, as an aside, say we're talking about Broadway and we're talking about Rodgers and Hammerstein. My favorite things ever to talk about.
Yeah, that's
so hopefully we'll do them justice.
true.
Yeah, my goodness. Well, Richard Rodgers was born in, let me make sure I get it right, 1902, and he died in 1979. And then Oscar Hammerstein was born in 1893 and died in 1960. So we're talking about the beginning of the 20th century.
right.
They were both from New York City. Actually, Richard Rodgers was from Queens. And interesting enough, they both went to Columbia University at the same time, which I think is real interesting. And along with the two of them, Lorenz Hart also was at Columbia at the same time. So these really wonderful lyricists and composers.
Is that how they all met?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
They went their own ways after a while, but at that time the music school was called the let me see, I have it here, the industrial musical part of Columbia University or something, but of course now it's Juilliard.
Yeah.
But
so the partnerships were later after they were
yes,
at school,
because Richard Rodgers, of course, was the pianist and the composer. Started playing piano at a very young age. His father was a doctor, and they had a pretty nice, comfy kind of life. I will say it's kind of interesting that his father, once they came to America, their name was Rogozinski.
Oh,
Rogozinski.
Okay.
And he changed it to Rodgers. So interesting. But
the father did.
the father did.
When he came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it became, Rodgers. Yes, and it was the Institute of Musical Art at Columbia,
Gotcha.
and later became Juilliard, of course.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So Lorenz Hart was one of Richard Rodgers' first collaborators, and they wrote quite a lot of stuff together. I found this kind of interesting. After graduation, they really worked hard to get some stuff out there and published, and they were having a hard time with it. And at one point, Richard Rodgers decided he was going to go sell children's underwear. And then one of their things that they wrote happened to hit it big, so they liked it, and he said, "Oh, okay, well then I'll stick."
Imagine if he hadn't had that
goodness.
success, what we'd be missing.
Oh, so much stuff.
Yeah, boy, that's so true.
Isn't it?
Life turns on a dime sometimes, and history has changed.
One day it's one thing, and the next day it can be something entirely different. When the Depression came, they went off, he and Lorenz Hart went off to Hollywood, and Richard Rodgers later will say this was not his most favorite time in his career, but they were able to write a lot of things for movies. And I believe that kind of, at least gave him a living and some notoriety during that time. And then finally, in 1935, they came back to New York City. So then they started, writing again, and then of course that went very well. But Lorenz Hart was ill. He was an alcoholic, and he had it became hard for him for Richard Rodgers to depend on him. So they kind of broke off their partnership. And that's when he went back and hooked up with Oscar Hammerstein, who he had known at Columbia. Now, Oscar's family were theater people.
Mhm.
They were impresarios. They were theater people. His father did not want him to be in the theater.
Okay.
So he went to law school, and he was there for a little while, but after his father died, he dropped out of law school and he started writing, because that's what he loved to do. And
Right.
once again, aren't we glad that he
Yeah.
followed his passion? And so that's when he and Richard Rodgers kind of got together. And the first thing that they wrote, of course, was Oklahoma.
Mhm.
And at that time, well, let me backtrack just a little bit because I think this is interesting. Oh no, it's not backtracking, it's actually with Oscar Hammerstein. He actually had written the lyrics for Showboat with Jerome Kern.
Oh, all right.
And that was a milestone in theater, musical
Right.
theater, because it was the first time that the music actually helped to tell the story and develop the characters. Usually there would be the drama, and then they would add a little musical number here and there before that. You know,
Right.
that's all. It was like, oh, fun, music, da-da-da.
And they were called reviews, I
Yeah.
think, like
Uh-huh.
musical reviews.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they have a little story going on, but then they throw in some
And
music.
the music wouldn't necessarily be related at all. It
No,
would just be
to
a
the
little,
story. Fun.
little
Yeah.
something.
Or
Yeah.
maybe it was in the same town they were in or something. But Showboat changed that. It was the
Mhm.
first musical that actually the music actually developed the characters and went along with that. So Hammerstein wrote with Jerome Kern in that. And then he just kind of went with Richard Rodgers, and it blossomed into
Mhm.
those wonderful musicals that we know now. So Oklahoma was very different, and it took them a long time to perfect Oklahoma. They took it lots of places, Connecticut and all over the place, trying to get it down
Mhm.
to something that would be easy to watch for the people, the patrons that came to watch them, because they added a lot of ballet. If you think about Oklahoma, there's that huge Agnes DeMille ballet scene in
Uh-huh.
that. So anyway, that took a long time, but they finally got it down, and of course it had rave reviews. So both of them said, now, this is great, however, they will always compare us now to Oklahoma. And they'll say, oh, are they thinking they can write another Oklahoma?
Mhm.
Da 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 da.
Mm.
So it was a blessing and a curse, I guess, in a way. But I don't think they had to worry about it, because the things that came after, I believe, are some of the most beloved musicals that we've ever had.
Right.
And Carousel was their second collaboration. So, and of course that's where this song comes from. I didn't realize that it's a story that had been presented as a play several times, as a drama, even on Broadway. And they happened to see it and they wanted to turn it into a musical. It's kind of a dark story, and it's actually the title of the play is Lilium, Liliom, and it has roots as a Hungarian language drama, and the person who wrote it is Molnar. Molnar was the playwright, and he had apparently a successful career as a playwright, and it was not presented until after World War I, but it was on the Budapest stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was brought to America, and actually it had quite a lot of following and renown, that it was quite well known.
And this was a straight play, right?
It's a play,
No music.
a drama.
Yeah.
And the story pretty much follows Carousel except for the ending. And the theme is kind of dark, you know. It's I'm not going to go into it a lot, but Billy Bigelow is in the movie, he marries Julie. In the play, they don't marry, and they live together and discover that she is pregnant. So he is kind of a ne'er-do-well guy, that he mistreats her. It's not a good situation. and she is just trying to, she's in love with him, and he figures out, well, he better do something so he has money to help raise this child, and he doesn't do it honestly. He decides he's going to rob the guy from the whatever, and it goes wrong, and he ends up killing himself with the knife.
Rather than getting caught. I think,
Rather than getting caught. And so there's very involved, and please watch Carousel if you want to.
Well, I think in the play it kind of leaves you in despair, whereas in the musical, this character Billy has a little bit of opportunity to somewhat redeem himself.
Right.
And then this song is used to, earlier in the play when he kills himself, it's used when she finds him over the knife.
Right.
Her cousin is trying to comfort and console her, and she's trying to figure out how she's going to go on. But then later at the end of the play, it's used. The daughter has grown up now, and she's graduating from high school or something.
That's graduation.
Right. And so he's like looking down from heaven, and so there's a connection sort of going on with, how he just he spurs her to sing the song and reprise it, because now she can have that to go on with her life.
That's the American version.
That's the American version, right?
Because they knew the other version would never fly. In their musicals. Yeah. And I'm not sure we really need to get into it, but it's not very hopeful. Right. It really does. It could be more real, I don't know, but anyway, they changed the ending.
Well, and I was reading too, like I didn't know a lot about Carousel, but it was came out in 1945, and so Nazi Germany was just a little, hadn't surrendered yet. It was right before the surrender, I believe, if I have that right, and so there was sort of a feeling of sadness and
storm clouds.
Worry, a lot of worry. Yeah, storm clouds, like the song refers to. And so this song really did provide a song, an inspirational song that really kind of spoke to the country at that time. And we talked about this, that it's a song that when you hear the lyrics can stand alone outside of the play. They're very inspirational, hopeful words that could be sung anytime for any occasion where you need hope or inspiration or any, just a feeling of guidance, so.
Right, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Before we leave Rodgers and Hammerstein, I just want to say that so much of their music is that way. And when they wrote, there were times that some of the things that they wrote were controversial, but they wanted to keep them in because they had this level of concern for social justice and for the things that were going on at the time. And if you think about their musicals, there's always something in there that brings these things to mind and that we have to think about, and are we doing the right thing?
Yeah, well, and also songs that can stand alone. I mean, everybody knows the Sound of Music. And, Climb Every Mountain.
That's right. It's the same kind of a song.
It's the same kind of a song, and it has a great build in it within it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
I think there was someone who came to one of the early performances of Carousel, and let me think of Mel Torme, maybe. It was a popular singer, and he went up to one of them, either Rodgers or Hammerstein, and he said, "That song made me cry," and he said, "Well, it was supposed to."
Right.
So.
Well, and there's another. What's the other ballad that's so famous?
From this one?
Yeah. What is it?
Well, if I Loved You is one.
If I Loved You,
Mm-hmm.
right. That's a beautiful song.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
song. And they say that moment in Carousel is one of the pivotal moments also in musical theater, because so much of the story is told between Julie and Billy Bigelow, and then they sing this song, and it lasts for quite a long time. They mention that as well, but that's a beautiful song. Yeah.
Yeah, the great melody writer. Yeah.
And I don't know, I can't ever think of June without thinking of June as busting out all over. It's just in my brain.
So these are before, Broadway now, it's changed a lot. I mean, these were just good melodies that were not unlike the popular music of the day, I think.
Right.
And so just as music has changed, so the musicals change, and so I think, somebody like Richard Rodgers, not exactly Stephen Sondheim, these were straight, they were great melodies and they were intelligent, but in a different way than say somebody like Stephen Sondheim's.
Yeah, they actually,
in the century,
Stephen Sondheim actually kind of apprenticed with Hammerstein when he was very young. He really either got some time writing with him or something. They were very connected. One little tidbit I will say, and then I know we want to talk about another
aspect
life of the song.
Yes.
But if you think about it, what you just said is very true. The music that came out, the songs that came out of the musicals of the 50s and 60s were being sung on the radio by lots of different people. It became in the popular genre. But then after the 60s, music that was in the popular genre was very different. And that's one reason why people started to stop going to musicals. They threw hair in there to try to kind of make those connections, but it just wasn't the same. But one of the reasons that Hamilton is so successful is because it uses music in the popular genre. It uses rap music to tell the story. And it has other stuff in it, don't misunderstand me, but it's of the popular music genre, which makes it so beloved by so many people. But when these were being written, they were the latest thing, and everybody wanted to sing these songs. And
well,
we
that's
still do.
That's what I thought musicals were, because this is like when I was growing up,
Right.
and my parents would take me to the high school productions of Dunedin High School many times.
What are you gonna do?
I saw up there Oklahoma. I saw Sound of Music. South Pacific. The King and I. Were they King and I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So these are the musicals that I grew up with, and that's what I thought musicals always were and would continue to be. And so they really, I think I'm probably typical of a lot of people that, grew up in the 70s and 80s. We were hearing these musicals from the 40s and 50s and 60s still. Because there was that little lapse, too.
There was in the 60s.
And so these are our musicals too,
Yeah.
and so they're so endearing.
And musicals still do that. It's just that it is music that is contemporary to the times.
Right.
But the thing that I love about these musicals that they're always revived because they have such value. And I think if you think of the musicals that really last, it's because they have this underlying story, underlying something or other that speaks to people at any age.
Right.
At any decade, it still speaks to you.
Yeah.
And that's why they continue to be revived over and over. So I'm glad, because I love them.
Well, one of the things that we both sort of found out when we were preparing for the chat today is, a little bit to our surprise, because we're American, but if you're a European, and especially if you're English or Scottish, where they play a lot of what they call football, it's our soccer, but it's to them that's what it's football. This song is extremely famous in Europe as a football song.
Football song.
Football anthem song.
Everybody sings it in the stadium.
It's
Who knew?
crazy. And the way it came about, there was a group that released and covered the You'll Never Walk Alone. They were called Jerry and the Peacemakers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were a group from the UK that were out of Liverpool, where the Liverpool is a big football club.
Oh yeah.
You know, and one of the traditions and it became popular. They recorded it in 1963, and it became a chart topper at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would happen at these football games is there was a tradition of singing like songs that were famous on the charts at the time, before the game would start. And so there was this tradition in place, and so because it was a #1 song for many weeks, it started to get sung at these football games. And one of the football players allegedly was, I think his name was Shanky or something, I forget, it was something like that. He was very taken by the song, and sort of through like his enthusiasm for it and others around him, it became the song for this Liverpool football club.
Right.
And I think it's on their coat of arms, even,
Yeah.
this kind of stuff. But then not only is it famous at their football games, but it started to even catch on, like other stadiums would
All over the
do
world.
it too. It just like
Yeah.
not all over the world, because I haven't heard it here in America done.
No, but we don't play soccer that much.
No,
either,
but in Europe, where soccer is everything, you know, it is just a big tradition. And so imagine a whole stadium full of people, thousands of people, singing this
it'd be fun.
at the top of their lungs.
It'd be very fun.
You know, but it really, it's a message to them. It was like, you know, think about football team, it's teamwork, it's I have your back, it's we're in this together. You know, we will overcome, we are gonna overcome adversity, you know.
Well, it's inspirational.
It is.
And it continues to be used for many different things.
Right.
And it has been all through history.
So now that tradition started in the 60s and it's still going on.
Yeah, I believe it.
So it's a long time. So if you Google this song, there's much less about Carousel and Rodgers and Hammerstein than there is about the use of it as a football
I know,
anthem.
I was amazed.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they did it. But
So,
I think I would go to a soccer game just to hear it.
I know, I think I would too. I would like to participate in that tradition. It's great.
I know.
But there have been other uses because of its ability to inspire in many situations. That it was used also, Barbara Streisand sang it at the Emmys after 9/11.
Right.
And on the year anniversary, the Fleming, what's her first name?
Renee Fleming.
Renee Fleming sang it a year later for the first anniversary. So they both used it for 9/11 remembrance.
Yeah.
And so there's been lots of times like that. It was used in South Africa. Nelson Mandela,
Right.
he was at a function where it was sung, and he didn't know the song. He asked somebody, "What's that song?" Because everybody was reacting to it, and they said, "That's You'll Never Walk Alone," you know. And so it's been used many times through the years.
It's well written.
Exactly.
Well written.
Yeah, and it's one of those songs that is impactful over. It's not a long song.
No.
And it goes from here to here, like in 2 minutes. You know, you've gone from this, you know, just sort of gentle beginning, and it just keeps moving and moving and moving and moving, and it reaches that peak at the end, and it's sort of a quick ride.
Yeah.
But it's really, it'll get you every time. Yeah.
And it's a very universal text, actually.
For sure.
So it can become very personal
Yes.
into whatever it is that you're going through or how you want to interpret it.
I think
mean, that's
so.
beautiful writing right there.
Yeah.
So
Did we cover everything we were
I
going to
think
cover?
so.
I think. And so what happened when we were talking about how to do the recording of this for you, Our friend Ellen DePaul was here recording for church, and she ended up singing with Ellen on this. And I think we're going to ask Pastor Jeff to, when he edits this episode, we're going to ask him to just put some inspirational photography with it, you know. And so in this case, Ellen and Barbara sang it together, and I accompanied it. And I have to say, it's a joy to play. It's fun to play because it moves through those chord changes and it wants to go, and wants to go, and wants to go. It's just really a pleasure.
It's
to
just
play
so
it.
well written.
Yeah.
And it is wonderful to sing.
Not easy to sing.
Not especially easy. But it is wonderful to sing. I was glad that she was here to help me with it. But
Right.
hopefully it will be something you will enjoy listening to.
Yes. So enjoy that, and we'll see you next time on the Music Chat.
Bye.